Tycho worked 2 jobs and hired a nanny to support his wife, but on Father's Day, she mocked him, saying no woman would want him. Tycho filed for divorce. He is 43, has always done his best to support his wife, Farah, 38, their 2 children, 3 and 5, and his mother-in-law. He'd like to think he's done a decent job over the years. He fought to better their family's living conditions. He not only finished another bachelor's degree and just received a master's degree in a STEM-related profession, but he also worked 2 full-time jobs while pursuing his second bachelor's degree. In addition, he helped his wife complete her education. She obtained a degree that allowed her to earn a good living, about $70,000 per year, in a healthcare profession with numerous career prospects. However, after the birth of their 2 children, she decided to give up her work and become a stay-at-home parent for the time being. Initially, it was difficult for them while Tycho was finishing his master's degree. However, after finishing it and their youngest turning 3, his work expanded, and they were able to live comfortably as a single-income home. While they are far from wealthy, they make do with a household income of roughly $150,000, plus bonuses. This past year, things became hectic for his wife, so even though he now works 75% from home, he budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house, and with 1 child while the other is at school. His day begins every morning at 5:30 or 6 a.m. He gets the house ready for the day before the nanny arrives at 8 a.m. He prepares their oldest for school, cooks breakfast, and plans his day. Tycho drops off their oldest at school and gets back home in time to allow the nanny in. His professional duties have recently required him to work from home for the next 2 months. Therefore, he is now completely remote. While convenient, his days are full of meetings as he manages worldwide teams and oversees industry projects. After a month and a half of working from home, he realized that his wife's routine began considerably later than anticipated. She starts her day about 10 a.m. He asked his mother-in-law and the nanny if this was typical, and they both agreed that it was, with minor variations. Farah gets up, cooks briefly, glances through her phone, or purchases from home. While Tycho is delighted he can give her this lifestyle because they both grew up with limited financial resources, it's becoming a source of irritation for him. He recognizes the risk of postpartum depression, the burden of having children, and the likelihood that he is not a great husband. However, he has assured that everything is taken care of, and then some. She said she was too busy to manage the home finances, so Tycho does. He pays all of the household payments, his personal bills, her personal bills, as well as his mother-in-law's medical bills and card debt. He also takes care of the house, appliances, cars, and pets. Despite this, she often implies that his life is easier than hers. Whenever he tries to decompress or express his troubles with her, she seems to feel the need to outdo him. If he had a horrible day, hers was far worse. His feet suffer from walking during work trips, but nothing compares to her standing and cooking as a toddler clings to her. For the past few years, she has frequently told him that he has ruined her life and possibilities, but when he reminds her of these comments, she rejects them or avoids accountability. His mother-in-law has approached him and indicated that she has observed a difference in both himself and his wife. Tycho has become closer to his children and has hugged the dogs and told them more about his life than he has to his wife. He feels like he's in emotional survival mode, one step away from climbing the corporate ladder and finding love and comfort at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. He is sure the manly men of Reddit will accuse him of being wimpy, but he's not a machine. Apart from his children, all he wants is to feel acknowledged and loved by someone he prioritizes. He is also confident he'll hear from stay-at-home mothers, which is fine. He understands their challenges because he grew up in a single-parent household. However, with the assistance of her mother and a babysitter 5 days a week for one toddler while the other attends school, can anyone honestly claim that his wife is facing the traditional problems of a stay-at-home parent? Neither his single-parent friends nor his colleagues would say that. He knows the community will probably think this is poorly written fanfiction, but it is what it is. Thank you for your replies. To add some context, Tycho's never cheated. He works in an industry with a huge female population, but he is very open about his profession. His wife has access to his work agendas and correspondence in case she needs to check. However, she still has no idea what he does for a living. They have tried as a family, including her parents and his, to urge her to attend treatment, but she either refuses or finds ways to avoid it. Unlike him, who grew up in a single-mother environment with some interaction from his biological father. She grew up with both parents in an allegedly monogamous marriage spanning more than 40 years. Tycho has tried to talk to her about everything, even his sentiments, but every conversation has devolved into one-upmanship. He's been questioning himself about what he's getting out of this marriage. Aside from his 2 lovely children, there's very little. Their sex life is practically non-existent, especially since last year. He's tried to be compassionate, figuring it's due to sadness or other issues she's having. But it's difficult not to wonder if he's unappealing to her or bad in bed. Despite temptations and possibilities, he's never given in because, as cliché as it may seem, he genuinely loves his wife and wants to be with her only. To her credit, Tycho wants to avoid being prejudiced, so he'll mention her efforts. She gets up and prepares meals for everyone in the house, himself, the kids, his mother-in-law, and even the nanny. Aside from breakfast, she prepares all other meals and snacks. She does both the kids and her own laundry, but she rarely folds or stores it. Tycho does his own washing and sends his work clothing to the dry cleaner. She keeps care of the pantry and fridge while he buys goods and organizes delivery. She cleans their bathrooms and house roughly half of the time. The remaining 50% is done by his mother-in-law, himself, or maybe the nanny if she feels like being especially helpful. Prior to hiring the nanny, his mother-in-law was Farah's primary supporter, but when she developed unanticipated medical issues, Tycho opted to seek more aid. This was especially important when his mother-in-law was receiving treatment and recovering. Mini update. Tycho is not sure who will read this, but he wants to thank everyone who has reached out and offered kind thoughts. He wanted to provide an update. The following weekend, Tycho showed his wife this post and all of the comments, and she read them. Long story short, they had a disagreement. She left to live with her sister, and he has been a single parent ever since. Unfortunately, his pattern has remained largely unchanged, with the exception of saying good night to the kids. He doesn't have much else to say except a heartfelt thank you for your words of support. This post has gotten far more than he planned from what began as a vent, but he has still answered a few comments. Thank you to everyone who offered kind thoughts and even joked about ruining your life. It's been the highlight of his night, as he sits there drinking with his dog while everyone else is asleep. It's a little upsetting to realize that Tycho is looking to strangers on the internet for validation, yet here he is. Update 1. First and foremost, thank you for all of your comments and direct messages. Tycho recognized his initial piece was emotionally charged because he wrote it right after another dispute. He would like to add additional context and clarification. Following the birth of both children, Farah underwent postpartum depression screenings at their pediatrician's office. She received great marks for both of her children and was advised to seek therapy. Her score improved much more after they had their second child. Tycho made every effort to get her the assistance she required, but she refused. His mother-in-law and nanny stepped in to offer more assistance. Tycho understands that others may blame him for staying in this scenario, but that is one of the reasons he is not ready to give up and file for divorce. He knows that silently suffering isn't good, especially for our children, but he's also concerned that a bitter, hate-filled divorce will leave lasting wounds. Some have compared it to taking off a bandage, claiming that while it will sting at first, the agony will pass. Still, Tycho doesn't want his kids to believe that their parents hated each other because of them or some other mistake. He mentioned to a few individuals via DM that he's been prepared for every what-if situation. As a former project manager who has worked with teams and budgets, planning comes easy to him. As a result, he's consulted with 3 lawyers to better grasp their rights and entitlements. He even has a draft settlement ready and on hold, just in case. He knows what he wants and is willing to go above and beyond for the children's welfare, but he also has a backup plan in case they have to go to court. He realizes it is entirely his fault that he is suffering in silence, but he is too stubborn to give up. He put up with this to make his children's lives as normal as possible, to guarantee that his mother-in-law's treatments continue uninterrupted, and to keep hoping that his wife will ultimately give therapy a chance and that they may all get to a better place together. Thank you again for your kindness and support. Tycho just wanted to notify those who have contacted him via DMS and comments. He apologizes in advance for the lengthy post. It is odd and coincidental that he is writing this follow-up during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but he desperately needs an outlet other than his therapist. Please accept his apologies if this does not result in the dramatic storybook finale or relationship ruin that some may anticipate. To summarize, his wife left, returned as if nothing had occurred, centered everything around her, and nothing has changed. Tycho is still suffering mentally, knowing deep down that nothing will get better, but he's trying to stay strong for the kids. There's been plenty of takeout and emotional weariness. Farah attempted to return the following day and take the children to her sister's residence. Naturally, Tycho was against it, as was her entire family, including her sister. It wasn't fair to remove their children from their home, nor was it fair to inflict financial and housing burden on her family, especially because Farah doesn't work. Her sister already had a spouse and 3 children, so adding 2 more was not an option. Fortunately, the children stayed with Tycho at the house they know. After a little more than a week, his wife appeared to have cooled off and believed it was okay to simply walk back into the home with her luggage as if she had just returned from a fast trip to Target. She came into his office when he was on a conference call with his colleagues. Tycho couldn't immediately drop everything because it was such a busy period of the quarter, which annoyed her. After he concluded the call and closed his laptop, she started ranting at him about how much he doesn't care about her or her health. Tycho could only gaze at her and shake his head. His mother-in-law heard the commotion and dragged her away, urging her to quit pestering him. Meanwhile, the nanny kept their smallest child out of the fight in another room of the house. That night, once the kids were sleeping, Tycho sat alone in his office with a drink, like he had done most nights lately. His wife entered, and they spoke, argued, sobbed, and drank together. One thing led to another, and they found themselves in bed. Tycho wishes he could say it was a time of reconciliation, but the following morning was sobering in more ways than one. As they lay there, she began talking, not about them, but about how terrible her absence had been. She discussed her difficulties staying at her family's home, in her old room, with her father and her sister's family. She went on to say how fortunate Tycho is to be able to stay in their house, do what he does, and not be as stressed as she or her family. She compared her trials to everyone else's easy existence, despite the fact that they had identical childhoods. That morning, Tycho's head and heart broke, and he's been on a downward spiral ever since. In the last week, Tycho attempted to reconcile and have a meaningful talk. He wanted to communicate his present stress and fears about life and job in general, but the conversation quickly turned into a shouting fight. His response was, "I'm struggling too. Doesn't my happiness, stress, or overall well-being matter to you?" Her response, "Do you know how hard this is for me? You're supposed to help me be happy." Tycho replied, "So when it comes to my happiness, stress, and needs, I'm supposed to just get over it, right, my spouse? We all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them." Tycho doesn't recognize the woman he lives with anymore. She is not the person he married or promised to spend his life with and raise their children with. Since that chat, Tycho has become increasingly distant. He's been sleeping at his office on the couch or in his children's beds after putting one to sleep. Still, it doesn't change the reality that his wife starts her day at 10 a.m., talks on the phone with her mom groups, and cooks meals while his mother-in-law and nanny care for the kids. Nothing has changed, and Tycho doubts that it ever will. Unfortunately, he believes that even if they divorced, nothing would change because his wife's departure caused little disruption other than more takeout meals. His biggest worry is not just losing his wife, but also losing his children in the process. It's sad to admit that, like many of the men and women he's spoken with here, Tycho will continue to smile and suffer in silence. Update number 2. Tycho is done. At Father's Day dinner, Farah told the therapist and their family that he doesn't do enough. She was served with divorce papers right then and there. She's furious, of course, and is attempting to act flawless right now while he continues to care for their children, his mother, and his mother-in-law. Well, if that means ruining her perfect existence, then so be it. Second, to clear up any confusion, Tycho did not earn 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree while working 2 full-time jobs, as some readers have believed. Here's what truly happened. Bachelor's number 1. Tycho graduated in the early 2000s. Bachelor's degree 2. Tycho completed it later through online courses, taking 2 classes every semester while working 2 full-time jobs, one in a hospital, 36 to 48 hours per week, and the other at a big box shop, 32 to 40 hours per week, spread over 7 days. Taiko took on these jobs to cover both his and Farah's tuition when she wanted to return to school before they had children. Master's degree. After earning his second bachelor's degree and entering his present industry, Taiko worked one job while also pursuing his master's. No, Taiko did not complete 3 degrees at once, and he's amazed he even has to explain this. Working 2 jobs while in school is not uncommon, at least he didn't believe it was. His wife prefers not to work, despite the fact that she technically has a job. She scarcely works, and they sometimes forget she has one. For example, she only worked one 8-hour shift around 5 months ago. Her manager, who is very supportive, gives her with flexible PRN scheduling and a list of days when she can pick up work. She simply chooses not to work anymore. Despite this, she constantly complains to their family about how her career is on hold for one reason or another, despite the fact that she has ample opportunities to work if she so desires, considering everything. She has a strong network to rely on, whether it's our family, her career, or me. Taiko has made several offers and taken considerable measures to facilitate her return to work, such as hiring a nanny, having his mother-in-law move in, and keeping a work-from-home schedule to accommodate her. Still, here they are. Taiko is already in therapy for himself because his job can be psychologically and physically demanding. Since he can't receive the support he needs at home, mentally or physically, he's chosen therapy over seeking consolation elsewhere or at the bottom of a bottle. Taiko has tried to explain his concerns to his wife, but as he indicated in his earlier piece, she has a history of outperforming him, and here they are. Are his in-laws still married? Given the conditions in our household, his mother-in-law moved in to help his wife, while his sister-in-law and her family returned to their parents' home for personal reasons. This agreement allows his sister-in-law and her family to save money as they rebuild their lives, and Taiko and his wife benefit from his mother-in-law's assistance, allowing us to keep a closer eye on her while she receives her bi-monthly treatments. His wife is suspected of having postpartum depression, PPD, based on questionnaire results, as well as a history of symptomatic OC and ADHD, among other ailments. She has repeatedly declined evaluations and denied the outcomes. Taiko knew what he was getting into when he married her, and he loved and accepted his wife's imperfections as much as she did his, at least at the moment. Spare me thee. I don't feel sorry for you, and I pity you. Taiko is just like any other man who fell in love and wanted to give his person the best of himself and the world he could provide. But again, here they are. There are many manly men out there, or members of the so-called Red Pill Nation, who may blame him for remaining in this scenario. While he understands different points of view, he'll be honest, if this scenario had simply touched my life, he would have left long ago. But as one Redditor once stated in a previous comment that remained with me, he is the kind of person who will take a bullet for his kids. Perhaps this was said in a different context, but to protect his children from harm, whether physical or mental, he would take the proverbial bullet if necessary. Taiko would like to think that other fathers feel the same responsibility to protect their children. That is why he has endured so much for the time being. Taiko would rather his wife utilize him as an outlet for whatever her troubles are, rather than projecting her negativity onto their children. Thank you all for your comments and support. He's met a lot of strangers who've turned into excellent Reddit pen friends, and some of them have followed his adventure from start to finish. Taiko is shocked at how far this has spread across many subreddits and platforms. Whether you love him, loathe him, or think it's all a lie, thank you for all of your critical feedback and DMS. His children and Taiko are going to be fine moving forward. Now for an update, the end of an era. This will be shorter than some of you imagined, as there isn't much left to say other than to answer lingering questions and give Reddit the "I told you so" moment. After a strong push from relatives and an intervention, Taiko and his wife eventually tried marriage counseling. Taiko is sure many of you can predict how it went: blame, tears, regrets, and gaslighting, with a side of Taiko and the reason her life is ruined and horrible. This time, however, it happened in front of a certified therapist rather than her Redditor mom groups. Finally, whatever the therapist suggested or noted went over her head and was ignored because it contradicted her current situation. One thing to note is that the therapist asked Taiko's wife to recollect the last time she felt truly joyful. How did she respond? About 12 or so years ago. Let Taiko point out that 12 years ago, she was still in her 20s, childless, and living with her ex. It was a very different period and situation in her life. Taiko knows it's petty of him, but if that's when she was last happy, it's not impossible for her to find happiness again, especially because her ex is still in the same apartment, job, and position in life as he was 12 years ago. That is okay if you choose to spend your life that way. But what about Taiko? Going clubbing 3 to 4 days a week in his 40s with kids is no longer fun for him. Of course, he do not want his children to be around a mother and company who are obsessed with White Claws. To clarify, Taiko's wife has not physically cheated on him, as far as he knows. However, he cannot say for certain whether she has been emotionally unfaithful, if that is the correct term. After the therapy session, he reviewed her phone records and found nothing strange, but he didn't bother checking applications like Instagram and Snapchat. Taiko knows he's probably boring, but kudos to all the Costco parents that spend Sunday Fun Day making rounds with their kids for samples. The next weekend was Father's Day. As expected, it was not a grand celebration as it is for many fathers out there. Their family gathered together for a cookout and some quality family time, but his wife treated it like any other day, sleeping in, cooking, shopping on her phone, and half-heartedly attempting to play with the kids. During the family barbecue, Farah complained of feeling poorly and hung about for the majority of the day while the rest of the family enjoyed themselves. When everything was set up and they were all seated at the table, her parents, her sister's family, his mother, and their children, it was a fantastic spread, nothing extravagant, just a lovely supper for everybody. Taiko was talking to his brother-in-law about their kids' school Father's Day events, and Taiko believed his wife overheard him express how sad it was to see some kids sitting alone at the breakfast with dad event he attended. She burst out laughing. "It's not like you do anything anyway. I could have gone instead." Taiko was surprised, embarrassed, and at a loss for words. The room became silent. His mother-in-law broke the awkward silence by saying, "Well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other." His wife looked at her mother, puzzled, and then chuckled mockingly in his direction. She pointed at him and said, "As if another woman would want a man like him. Just look at you." The room stayed silent. Taiko felt angry, heartbroken, puzzled, and ashamed, all at once. In classic manly man fashion, Taiko nodded quietly, stood up, grabbed his keys, and exited the house. He drove away to fetch a drink, ignoring the pleas of his family and his children, who begged him to stay. Taiko's not sure what was said or done while he was away because he couldn't force himself to check the house cameras. When Taiko returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different atmosphere. As usual, he woke at 6 a.m., prepared the house and their oldest for school drop-off, checked emails, and nothing seemed out of place. As he was getting ready to go, Taiko noticed his wife lying in their bed, quietly snoring. All he could do was gaze at her and reflect on what they had and what they've lost. He's decided, he's finished. Taiko can't do it anymore. That morning, he texted his lawyer to proceed with delivering her divorce papers. Fast forward to last week, and she was served in our home. Taiko had no choice but to be there because he works from home. She had a mini meltdown, coming into his office and screaming, "How could you do this to me?" Her mother intervened, sparking charges that he had turned her entire family against her. Taiko probably would have felt guilty if she hadn't immediately gone on to act like the perfect wife and mother for the remainder of the week. Sure, folks may say she's making an attempt, but this has always been fleeting, and they wind up right back where they started. For those who are curious, Taiko intends to seek full or majority custody of their children. He's already committed to continuing to pay for their expenses, including insurance, tuition. Both kids will be attending private schools in the fall, medical bills, and more. His mother-in-law has been a rock of strength for him, supplementing his own mother's support during this journey. She has been the mother and wife that Taiko wishes his wife had been for him and their children. Out of respect for her and his mother's wishes, Taiko will continue to supervise and contribute financially to her therapies. While some may believe he should cut off all contact with his wife's family, Taiko is well aware of the difficulties associated with cancer and have direct experience as a caregiver. Taiko is willing to go to court if necessary, but all he wants is a clean, simple divorce. His wife will not receive alimony, unlike what some Redditors and mommy groups believe. First, they live in a state where alimony is not frequently enforced. Second, she has the ability to find instant employment. Third, to avoid any problems, he will continue to pay her insurance and bills until the divorce is finalized or she gets full employment. So that's it. Tycho is finished and waiting for the next steps to complete everything. Sorry if this wasn't the dramatic twist-filled story you were expecting, but that's life. He is not sure if Tycho will update until everything is finished, but it'll probably be a few months, depending on whether we go to court. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.